Parks and Recreation Commission meeting is called to order. All right. Sir? All right, so commissioner update, we'll jump right in, commissioner updates. I will start, so I know that Saul and I have talked about, we have to get caught up with Michelle and Ryan about sort of the evaluation for you, but you know, we know that you know, we're gonna delay that a little bit just because of recent circumstances, so but that is, it should be coming fairly shortly. We'll arrange it when it's good for your schedule.
Okay. And I have it on here later on.
Oh, okay.
But just, I would say if we can try to get it done before the end of August.
Without a doubt.
Whenever, yeah, whenever we get it scheduled.
Okay.
Here now.
Yeah, yeah. All right, any other updates?
I spoke with a representative of St. Anne's today. I've been trying for a few weeks, but fortunately I was able to get somebody today, so just wanted to kind of see what the disconnect was with that back.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it seemed like I didn't have the same recollections. Some of the stuff here, I know that may or may not surprise people. You know, the way I was told was that, you know, other than taking care of the field itself, that was kind of when you guys reused the field for that purpose, to take care of the fields and stuff like that. And I had asked, well, were there other things that the town did? Like, I didn't know that the highway department took care of, like the lawn, the landscaping. I didn't know if that was something we did to help.
So, yes.
Is that how, and I told that's how.
Yeah.
They have that same recollection, and they had asked that, you know, because what, last year or 2 years ago, when things were a little tighter money wise, they had asked for some resurfacing. I guess on their end, I didn't think it was that big of an ask. You know, I had mentioned that a lot of those other things were being done, and that's added on top of it. To me, that's a big ask. So she's going to go back and get some more details, but I was going to ask you, I don't know if it's too late.
It's
If I'm
never too
able
late.
to sit, it probably is, and that's why I've been
Never too
trying,
late.
I've been trying for weeks, but I mean, it's something where if I get a chance to sit at a table with somebody.
Yeah.
And we can get an agreement to get that, I know anything will help at this point, but is it still?
Yeah, so where we're at right now is, we actually reached out through one of our, partner rec parents who's very active in the church, and she was able to actually set up a meeting with father over there.
Okay.
So Kaz and I have reached out.
Okay.
We're gonna try to sit down with him directly and
Okay.
kind of have the similar conversations, so you and I can kind of tie out. And you know, it was Dave, she had also spoken to Dave, who had no recollection of the email that we sent in October of, hey, let's try to make this work, you know, since everything fell apart, let's start early. So I had to re-forward that email. So that's kind of where we're at. So
Okay.
hopefully we're gonna meet with father this week.
Okay.
Really kind of discuss with him. Ultimately, it sounds like he's gonna be the decision maker in all of this.
Okay.
I'm not sure, there are two priests there, one is, which is away on vacation right now, so we'll see how that goes. Fortunately, I'm meeting with Ben this week. I've already spoken to Aaron, spoken to Brad, and spoken to Norm, and it seems like right now, fingers crossed, that even with our extemporaneous stuff, with the school getting pushed back, with the 24 games that are going to be impacting our grass services this fall, it seems like we're going to be okay, because with the increase in soccer registration fees, Brad actually saw a pretty significant decrease in the number of registrants, which he accounted to the fact that like people who were on the fence before and were just like, I'm going to sign my kids up now, just to sign up. Other things that we've discussed, and I have to verify with Ben in my meeting this week, is putting, I think we met with Mike Lynn on Wednesday or Thursday of last week. So ultimately what's going to happen, just so everybody knows, is the high school soccer teams are going to use the high school and Kerper, and they're going to be used for practice until about 5 p.m. based on what that is. There are 6 games on both fields that will have impact for a later period of time, which we're gonna get all that information, Brad. We're gonna work around it. The middle school field hockey field is typically on Whitcomb. And then the middle school soccer teams, boys and girls, practice on the inside of the track. What our thought was, because that's gonna have more impact on uses and number of games because of the way they have to play them in the referee situation, is we're going to measure the middle school field to see if we can put the field hockey field out there, since lacrosse only has the clinic programs that they're doing in the fall and everything's gonna be on turf. If we can move that, that'll give us 2 full-size soccer fields that we put on Whitcomb. We'll have one that's running behind second base, one that's kind of behind third / more on about a 45. And then we will figure out what we're gonna do with the track in that situation. So if all of that math works out, we're, knock on wood, we're really good right now.
Okay.
From a standpoint of what the uses look like at this time. The only thing that would change that is, if Norm comes back and says, hey, Whitcomb, we're gonna use, more uses on fall ball, but based off of last year's uses, we should be okay. And I'm still waiting for all of the actuals from these guys. So some of this is just conjecture, but from initial conversations, it looks like we're gonna be fine. Aaron is, so other instances that are gonna happen. So flag football is taking place on Alumni. We have 2 we have 2 kind of hodgepodge, over the hill 40 men's teams who are going to utilize space on Sunday mornings, mainly made up of Littleton parents. And then we have a couple other uses on Alumni Field. Cats can do flag football, both adult and kids out there. And then we have a couple other kind of fill-in things. So we're looking pretty good. There might be one game or a few games of the multi-town football team that's happening, the Knights, but Mike wasn't sure what was going on there. So the initial conversations have been really good. I'd love, once we come up with the time to meet with Father, if you want to, I'll shoot it there.
Yeah.
Even if we can Zoom or just have you in the room, if you can't make it right there, then that'd be great.
Okay.
At least that
Father
makes
Joe.
Yeah, Father Joe.
So CPC has continued to meet, and there will be a warrant article for fall town meeting to, at least that's the current thinking, is that a warrant article for fall town meeting to increase the CPC surcharge from 1% to 2%. And the select board is at least looking at whether or not they can carve out the additional 1% to get us to the 3% CBC commitment that gets us the full state match. So we'll see where that goes. One of the things that will be asked about that is what are the projects that these things are going to fund in the future. So we have the tennis courts and the lights that are current projects, and I think future field developments will be park and rec projects.
Yeah.
And if there's anything else that falls in that CPC bucket that we want to.
There's a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
So those will be things that are coming up, and obviously any thoughts you want to share on that or support we can give to that would be helpful.
So would you like a list of potential projects? Would that be helpful?
Yeah. That'd be
Okay.
great. And that was more general. Group organizations, friends, etc.
Yeah, I think the other piece too is, not the cart in front of the horse, but as we go through it statistically about the simulator, that's gonna be a lot of the information for CPC to say, hey, this is what the community is looking for. To be able to really kind of number those projects out 1 through X.
Yeah.
Yep. That's it.
Okay, so I reached out to Jen Gold, our liaison at the school committee, just to make sure that what they were looking at for the MOU is what we were looking at. And she reached out to Dr. Clenchey and they forwarded the versions that they have, acknowledging that these are older. And so we can start having these conversations again. I really do think it's in our best interest to go through this and have something official based on the fact that we don't want to have this conversation every single summer.
Absolutely.
So,
And I think, you know, one of the things we discussed last time was that we're kind of amenable to the idea of this is just an agreement rather than trying to get into this whole idea of an MOU. If that's what makes it easier, then I mean, that it could just be like a contractual agreement. I don't know.
we just have to figure out because it's not working, correct? It's, and
How old is it? The one that-
how to make it better.
I think he was saying 2012.
2012, yep, that's one.
I will say, however, he and I signed one when I was first coming on board here, which was either 2015 or 2016. So that was probably the last one he and I both signed.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, which might be this one. This one isn't dated or signed, so. But yeah, 2012, March.
Yeah.
2012.
That's what
Gives
we
you
were.
plenty of time to plan for the summer.
Yeah.
In the agreement.
It had expired prior to the start of the camp year that
Yeah.
I was hired, which was 2017.
Yeah.
So, because that was when
2018,
we had,
we were really trying
that
to get
was
it.
17, we had a pretty decent verbal agreement
Yeah.
saying, hey, we're just gonna continue this, and then 18 was kind of when everything went. We tried to make it, and then
Didn't work out.
it was out of our hands at that point.
Didn't work, yeah.
Yeah, and I know the meeting we had earlier this year got us partway what we
Yeah.
want, but not fully
Right.
what we want, so I could use guidance on how we want to move forward with this.
Yeah.
Make sure that we get something done.
Okay.
I think that's definitely one of worthy having a conversation with Kaz too.
Yeah,
I think he's got some ideas of
yes.
where he wants to go, so that might be a good thing to sit down for you and him to say. What's it look like?
Right.
The other thing, you know, in this, and I don't know if it wants to be an addendum or something else, but we need to start having conversations since we're already having site walks and figure out, we need to start figuring out what are we gonna do with 3 softball fields? You know, we need to plan for that now, so we don't have a high school
Yeah.
soccer field situation on our hands and we're down 3 fields. But in that, we also need to figure out conversations of what it's gonna look like once construction starts so that we can figure out summer camp. We can't get to that point and just be like, hey, we're not gonna run a summer camp this year or whatever it is. So anything that impacts those agreements in the actual document, we have to have contingency plans in place. And we have to start kind of discussing that and being part of the conversation as the dates and stuff are brought up so that we can say, okay, well, if that's really your date, then we need to start working on where do we find this space to make up for it ahead of time, or how do we build this ahead of time?
Do they have a timeline yet? For Shaker Lane, there's talk, but no.
Not that I'm aware of, but they do have a committee that meets to discuss the project. So that is something, I mean, if they're already there, you know, they're organized and it'll come along swiftly is usually how it goes, you know?
Yeah, I think they've put out an RF something for,
Design.
no, maybe for like the design manager or one of the early
Project.
Okay.
the early consultant managers to start to lead them through it.
Do we have anybody on that committee? The Shaker Lane.
No, so that's the piece where I think maybe that might be a good conversation with Jen is to find out how to have our department or our park commission involved in that project. So that we can make sure, I mean, because there's some very important components for us. The Camp Tehadawon is our biggest program, and that is what allows our department to operate.
Right.
You know, so if we lost that for a year, that would be absolutely devastating for us. So we we kind of need to know what's going on so that we can plan for the future and make sure that we have security for Camp T. No matter what that may look like, right?
Yeah, there's nothing over there, like if it's gonna be closed down for summer.
Right.
there's
Well, so
nothing
that's the
over that.
piece. I don't think they know yet
Yeah.
if they're going to stay in the old building and then build something new on the softball fields.
Yeah.
I think that may be their preference, but if not, then they would be doing, like an add-on type of thing. Even then, we still would have to figure out, is it are we able to run that program at that location with them doing those, additions, or do we truly need to operate in a different location?
Yeah, even if they're building in the back, it may not be, practical to
Right,
operate out of the front building.
right.
I mean, from an operation standpoint, Camp T, finding a new home for that is the easy piece. You know, we could really move to any school and then say, okay, yes, we have to, the added cost this year is gonna be, we're gonna rent a school bus to go back and forth from the lake every day. That we can figure out. We can go to middle school, we can go to Ross Street, we can go really anywhere. Hopefully Indian Hill is, we figured that out sooner than later. The bigger piece is gonna be, how do we build 3 softball fields, or how do we, figure that out? Because the camp needs to run because we have 300 families who need a place to put their kids, and it's essential. So, but moving that's not hard.
It's just being part of that conversation that's really
Yeah.
important, but yes, moving forward, when we're talking about, I think a lot of times the buildings get built, but we're not thinking about the facilities surrounding those specific buildings, and, that's kind of how we've gotten into the situation now where we do have a lack of athletic fields, and it's just one of those things, like, it would be nice to genuinely have that conversation so that we're not continuing to do the same thing that we've always done. Like, let's do better. Let's try to consider all of the things that need to be taken care of that, this one building change will affect. Because it's not just the schools, it's gonna be many, many, many facets of the community. So, yeah. If you would like to reach out to Jen and start have that conversation of like, how do we get that ball rolling? Talking about Schaefer Lane.
And hopefully get somebody on that committee, or at least, even if they're not, I don't know if it's kind of like a voting committee, or even just someone sitting on that committee.
Sitting in on.
Sitting in on it,
Yeah.
exactly, being able to sort of be part of the discussion, even if they're not voting on whatever they're.
Right, or at least know when they're meeting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay,
all right, any other
yeah,
updates?
one
Oh,
other thing.
sorry,
So I also reached out to one of our neighbors over in Long Lake and got some feedback. And it seems that some of the concerns are surrounding parking and having cars right up next to their driveway. And that was one issue. Communication from Parks and Rec to the neighborhood, acknowledging that there is a lake association, but not everybody in that area is part of that group. So we should not think that if we communicate with the lake association, anybody has heard anything other than the few members that are part of that. So there were questions about how do we communicate things to that group ahead of time around events happening, such as the start of summer bash or end of summer bash, and giving them a heads up. And there were also questions about why we have so many programs going on at the lake. And I said that we have a lot of people that want these programs at the lake. There were questions about if it's town people or outside of town, and I said I don't have those numbers. For who's partaking in the activities at the lake. But I did say our town is growing and we have interest, which is why we're adding these programs, and that's why we're doing this.
Right.
And it's because of what the town wants. So I think going back to the survey, would be helpful for us to communicate with that organization. There seems to still be the age-old question that's, why did people that live there have to pay to go to the beach? So that seems to still be a concern. Interesting.
I mean, the easiest answer that I can give to that is that it's for the people that are using the lake are the ones that have to pay. So we've had, in the past, there's been a request of, well, why don't we make that part of like the taxes, right? And then it's free. That's not necessarily fair because there's a fair amount of people that maybe don't even live near the lake and don't use it. So it's just not necessarily fair to see the town paying for that out of the taxes for that specific reason. So that's why we've always gone the route of having the passes. And you know, even though people live very close by, it's still paying for the services that they would be using. You know, there's still lifeguards that are very important for them to be on the stands and be able to provide that service for the town.
And I'm sorry, this like drives me nuts. My house is kind of on the lake, so should I be able to go for free? Like it's just no. It doesn't matter what road you live on. If you want to use the lake, you pay for the lake.
Well, if you want to use the beach.
The beach, yeah, that services at the
At the
beach.
beach. You can use the lake
Services at the beach.
from
Anywhere
half dozen
else.
other places.
Right.
And there are people who do.
Yep.
And there is no fee for that or charge for that or anything else. And if
You can walk through Proudy and get to the lake, and there's a nice little boat dock, and you can swim there all on your own if you want.
It also was brought up how there's no fee for Lake Metawanaki, but I corrected the individual and said there is a neighborhood association that pays to keep the beach up.
Yeah.
It doesn't keep itself up without money.
And that's also not, that's a separate private
That's- yeah.
entity that is not your Parks and Recreation.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I clarified that. The other concern, excuse me, about knowing what rules actually are in place at the lake and understanding about when you could go on a dock with a life preserver versus when you can't, and why there is a line. And I said, I believe that's in the rules of how we operate, and they said that it's not posted anywhere. So I said, perhaps we could look into communication about that. I'm not sure. And so there was some angst about, are we just arbitrarily enforcing rules to
Absolutely
enforce
not.
rules? And I said, we're all about
Yeah.
safety and people's lives are very important. It's not a joke. And these are in place because of that. So
Yeah, I mean, the
And
life
I-
jacket rule in particular is, it's very easy for a kid to swim out there in a life jacket, take the life jacket off or whatever, and then all of a sudden they're not there anymore. And their life jacket's on the dock, and
Right.
it's just a piece of safety equipment that, you know, if not used properly or somebody's not paying attention, or all of a sudden they're out there with their friends, you know, whether we're there or not, it's something that it's very simple for somebody to remove and take off and be a non-swimmer and end up at the bottom of the lake. And then, you know, we have a catastrophe. We have something that could have been 100% avoided. And just because somebody doesn't like the rule, doesn't mean the rule should be changed. Just because somebody doesn't feel like following the rule while the lifeguards aren't there, does not mean the rule should be changed. And you see these tragedies happen on the news, and at the end of the day, when you know, a lot of your drowning take place after lifeguards are gone because people no longer follow the rules. And that's not just a lake thing, that's an ocean thing, that's everywhere. And those are most of the stories that you hear.
I believe I did say, having grown up in an area with a lot of lakes, that as a young child, there were beaches I avoided because I didn't want to follow the lifeguard rules. You know, as a teen, and I knew if you
That's
go
a
to the
choice,
beach, you have to
right?
follow the lifeguard rules. That's life.
Yeah.
Is there a way we can, I guess what I'm thinking about is just like this ongoing sort of issue with people saying, well, we just don't know what's happening, which I don't, and I no disrespect, I'm like, it's like, we've got the website, we've got the office, you can go down there.
I've
Like,
already answered this individual's question.
It's constant contact.
You know what I mean?
Constant, is there a way that we can
Yeah.
have people like sign up for
They do. We
an
have that.
email
And
blast?
the problem, and we've run into this problem, we've spoken about this multiple times. The issue is that many of the individuals who we constantly talk about, especially the communication piece, have not signed up for communication or have opted out of our communication
Right.
or all of these other channels. And once they opt out of our communication, especially with constant contact, we don't have a way to re-engage them. That's something that they have to
Right.
do on their end.
That would make sense, because that's a law right there.
You know, it's very simple. It's very
Yeah.
simple to follow all of our things
Yes.
on, you know, people follow things, you know, pick your thing. We have 5 social media platforms. Follow one of them, because every single time we do anything, we go across the
Yeah.
platform. And how do we do that? We click send on the constant contact and it automatically uploads the exact same message to everything else. And we're very thorough about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I know exactly what people want. They want to stick a flyer in their mailbox. We're not allowed to do that.
Right, I did hear that, but I didn't go down the rule of violating federal law.
Or violating
I
federal
can't-
law.
Like, I had a conversation, well, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that.
And we don't want to spend whatever postage is to actually legally mail you something.
We have the brochure that goes out. All the special events are 7 or 8 months posted ahead of time in the brochure. It's not a surprise that we're doing it. And when we do cancel or move a special event, you know, the minute that we know that we're gonna do it and postpone it a day or 2 days or a week, we put that out there on the events pages and everything else that we own. So I feel like we do our best to communicate.
I
So,
will
but
also-
bottom line, I would say that at least now, the individual I spoke with hopefully realizes that I am an open conduit to conversation.
Sure.
to
Yeah.
Alleviate some of the stressors.
I just wanted to also state that the letter, we did send one letter out earlier in the summer. And that was an additional between $600 to $700 just to send a letter out to that small group of people. So there is a large financial burden that comes along with that, if that's something that we had to do on a regular basis. Like even our flyers, we do postcards now that we'll send out twice a year, potentially 3 times a year. And that is $3,000 just to get the postage done. That's not even including the cost of the cards themselves. So there is a pretty hefty financial number that comes along with doing those things as well. So that's why we really do count on using things like constant contact and our social media, as well as our website. You know, we try to make sure that we have that as updated as we possibly can. We're not perfect, but we try really hard to try to keep it as updated as possible.
You also have a message board down there, right? All right.
Yeah, we have all the message boards on the side,
There's a
so we
kiosk,
post all,
yeah.
we put those up, so we have.
And we do have the flyer.
There's one for just programs, there's one that's just events happening at Long Lake, including the water quality reports, and
There's one at King Street, right, with all the,
We have one at Castle in the Trees.
Charges are on that, I'm assuming.
yeah, that's always on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is, you know, at the end of the day, it's a public facility that, you know, everybody has the right to, and everybody has the right to use it in any way that they choose to within the rules. And, you know, in doing these things that ultimately it makes a lot of people happy. What's going on, to your point? These are programs that are being requested. These are things that we're doing. The kickoff the summer party is very well received by, you know, 300, 400 people. And it's something that we were really asked to like bring back, because we didn't do it for 3 years. And, you know, ultimately, you know, yeah, I understand that, you know, you dislike this and it's ruining the piece of your evening. I understand that, but you know, it's also an opportunity for you to embrace them and say, I get to meet all my neighbors, all these great people, and do this fun thing, and yes, it's one night, like. People live next to the soccer fields and they hear whistles all the time and everything.
Which is
It's-
what on the
it's one of
docket,
those-
what we're talking
right?
about, yes.
It's one of those things. It's, we're all, somebody lives next to the fire station and they get to hear the fire trucks all the time. And there's no difference in any of that stuff. And, it's just a matter of,
How you
Every-
perceive it.
yeah,
So I did leave it with, I'm here to talk with you about these things. So, yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate that very much.
appreciate you doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, any other updates? All right, acceptance of the minutes. We then get a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of our July. I'm sorry. July 10th, 2023, Parks Commission.
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All righty. So request for the road race.
Yep.
Okay.
I don't
Jump
know.
in on this one?
Yeah, you want to go ahead?
So
and do this?
just, I'll just let you guys know, I've been in contact with Jasmine, Caramity, I think. I'm not sure how to say her last name. She reached out to me by email. We also had a phone conversation last week. So I'm just gonna read the email, to you. She works until 8:30. She works until 8. The earliest she can get on via Zoom would be like 8:30. I said, we can do this one of two ways. If you can get on, great. Otherwise, we are requesting for Oktoberfest our liquor license as well. So I'm gonna read the email and let you guys figure out how to proceed. Ultimately, this is what we do every year. First, request number 1 is to approve waiving the fee for the Littleton Road Race for this year, which takes place on September 24th.
No, correction.
Sorry.
It is actually the 17th. If I did put it on this agenda as the 24th, but we did double check their website and it is
It is
September
in the-
17th.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then part number 2 is Dirigible was going to be serving after post road race, which they, as part of it, one of the things is that you need to approve having alcohol in the park. The other piece is that they need to go through the board of selectmen as well. So they would be filing 2 petitions to pull 2 separate liquor licenses for that. But ultimately, the email that was sent to me on August 5th at 1:26 was, "Hi, Tim and John. I am a member of the LRRTO board, and we are busy planning for the road race for September 17th. Dirigible Brewing is a potential sponsor again this year. We were wondering if they could serve beer at the event. They would donate a portion of the proceeds to LRRTO. They can get a pour permit from the town. We were checking with LPD as well, but we wanted to run it by you. So thanks, Jasmine." So that's where we're at with that right now. I would say ultimately you guys can make the decision to approve those things, or if you want to wait for Jasmine, we can see if she can sign on, but that's the ask.
Is there a limit? Does accepting their permit limit us for Oktoberfest, or is it just that we're doing 2?
No, so their request, it's just 2 separate. So one, they're requesting the use of the park on that date.
And that's for us to waive the fee.
And and to waive the fee. And the second component is they would like approval to have alcohol on the premises on that day. So was it 2 years ago, we started doing there's a 2-step process. Anyone that would like to have alcohol for an event, they have to ask the board or commission for approval to have alcohol on site. And then they can come to the select board and ask for a 1-day liquor license. So it's a 2-part process. So for them to be able to have Dirigible serving alcohol at the park, they would need the approval of the park commission for them to be able to do that day.
What is
Then they can go to the select board.
the typical schedule for the roaders?
Morning,
Hold up.
yeah, it's pretty
Start, I
early.
think the start on run beginning and then the road race itself is like 10 or 11 or something like that.
I'll pull it up right now.
I'm like, yeah, pull it on, let's see.
I was thinking like 9.
At night?
No,
It made, like, I think they closed, because it goes right by my house, so like, I think they closed the road at like 8 in the morning or something, and
So the road race will be held on Sunday, September 17, 2023. It is in the same format as the previous years with a 1 mile fun run starting at 2 p.m. followed by a 5K
Wow.
I was told.
USATF sanctioned race. This race is a fundraiser for the Littleton Road Race and Track organizations.
So let's tackle this, so. Let's go like fee waiver first, and then we'll do the alcohol, permission, so. Any discussion on the fee waiver for the road race? All right, can we get a motion?
So with that, we generally set the number of porta potties that we
Yeah.
require them to have.
So that's the only thing we don't have is we don't know how many people would be in attendance. That's the hard part.
Which is, you guys can just say that. I think that's what we've done in the past.
What?
That they need to provide porta potties for the appropriate.
Right,
Yeah,
it-
it's like
is it like-
25 to 1 or something, like, what's the?
we even said
Right.
50 to 1 at
Yeah,
one point,
it's 50 or however you want.
yeah.
I think
So I
last
would
year we did
clarify
the
that, that's all.
Porta potties as needed for registration.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
all right, so can we get a motion for the waiver of the fee for use of Bay Park?
I'll make a motion to waive the fee for the Littleton Road Race and Track Organization. Waive the fee for using Bay Park on Sunday, September 17th.
I'll second. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Nope. All right. All right, so a discussion about the permission to use, for Dirigible to provide alcohol on the day of the road race.
That comes with having a police detail or no?
So that is
That's the
a
Select
select board
board.
and the police department.
Okay.
I would hope
Yeah.
that they would have the same requirements that they make us do the following week.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would,
Just said-
it's one of those things that, you know, if you are concerned about that, you could say that we approve of having alcohol at this event with a police detail being on site. Because they would have to do the same thing of like, they need to be able to have a court, there's certain rules to it. You have to have a cordoned off area. You're not allowed to leave that area with alcohol. So there are specific things that you have to do to make it work. So I would hope that the select board would enforce those policies as well. Uniformly,
Yeah.
yeah, because it's the same thing we're gonna do the week following,
Okay.
2 weeks following, yeah.
Discussion?
The only other thing I would say, I mean, I don't think it's gonna be an issue, we should probably put a end time.
Hmm?
An end time,
Oh, okay.
That's a good idea.
I don't know,
Yeah, what time is it? It's 2:00, so.
2:30 start,
But that's for the fun run, you said, right?
right, and then the 5K happens after that.
5K can go, if people walk it, like I think the slowest walkers would be like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like-
For me, it'd be about 6 hours.
Like that's back in the Packers. Midnight. Across the line.
the sweet truck. comes
At that point, yeah, I was gonna say.
No, I'm sorry.
Sweet trust.
LCTV's there Monday, watching me and Ken crawl across. the
Yeah.
finish line.
Nice try.
Let's hope the beer's not waiting.
One warm baby.
So sunset that day is at 6:53, so I think it'd probably be safe to say 6 o'clock.
6
5:30,
o'clock,
6
yeah.
o'clock.
All right, so let's get a motion for the approval of permission to serve alcohol with the event ending at 6 o'clock. With the police detail and the ending. All right, so does somebody want to make a motion to where?
So moved.
All right. A second?
A second.
Okay.
All right, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
All right. Opposed? No, nobody. Okay, we're good.
Almost enough to make me want to do it.
yes,
I worked so hard on that, I might have.
Do the fun run.
Yeah. It's
The
even the
original
fun
has
runs.
a wonderful beer.
They do.
I'd like, I'll put a little plug in there. If you guys haven't had the original yet, go. They're really great.
Where is this place again?
I don't even know where it is.
Warner
I've
Road.
heard of it.
Where's Warner Road?
In Littleton.
they're all the office buildings
So if you-
are off of Taylor, right?
Go down
Off Taylor
Taylor,
Street. If you get off the
Route 2.
Taylor Street
Yeah.
exit,
Yeah,
turn left,
yeah.
turn immediately left. It's up there, just on
Yeah.
the right.
Is it DCU that their headquarters is? up there?
No.
It's one of the
I probably drive by this,
It's
because
Warner
I'm off
Road.
on Taylor Street.
I'll drop you a pin. Kev.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really try this place.
It's really good.
They also-
All right, any other road race discussion? No, we're good, okay. All right, Park Commission reorganization. Are we, what do we have to reorganize?
If you want to, it's been tabled for the last like 4 meetings. So you could,
We
because
didn't get
we
any
have
new
no,
members, but we are supposed to
Yeah.
reappoint people.
so
Oh.
because there was no change because you were elected again. There was no change on the board. You could theoretically keep it the way that you want. Or this is an opportunity to take a look at it and change things if you would like.
Okay. The floor, anyone? Anyone want to discuss the reorganization?
Oh, look, there's all the,
Look at that.
I got you.
right. And there any packets to sign? Because I have not,
Yeah,
you could tell me about those and I will come sign them.
okay. Theoretically, I'm like, you should probably come in every week and do it, but
It's,
at this point, we're not gonna go backwards, so maybe you start stopping in on a weekly basis and I'll just give you stuff to review and sign. Yeah,
Sean, you should stop by every Tuesday. That was his jam.
yeah, jot it all in.
We'll talk about that.
we got on the agenda for next week, next month.
Yeah,
All right, so, can we get a motion then to keep the assignments as listed if there is no discussion on these assignments?
I'll make a motion to retain our positions.
Yeah.
As listed here.
Second. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? All right,
yay!
it's only been 4 months. I thought we did that. All right, so I was like, what's this on here again? All right, discussion.
That was a year ago.
This one we did actually, I just realized I didn't put a thing up here, but we've kind of talked about it a little bit, the discussion of programming space needs for 23-24. That's kind of gonna be one of the conversations that we need to have with the school department.
I think we need to have Kaz and Brent actively involved in that
Yeah.
conversation
And
too.
he was not available for the meeting tonight, so that's something I think we should probably just table and come back to. But it's a very important discussion for us to go through. Our just putting it out there, our like Camp T, our maximum this year was supposed to be 180, and on average, we were about 200. So we went 20 over our maximum. And we still had people on waiting lists. So, it's one of those things we really have to think about, the summer programs are so important for families, especially families where both parents work year round, to be able to have that support for the kids. And that's not me even touching on the benefits of kids going to camp, which is just unbelievable things that it can do to help them continuing on with their education. They already start the next school year like that much ahead of everybody else. So it is an extremely important program. It is extremely needed in our town. So we have been talking about, do we expand this? What does that look like? How do we do that? So now that the program is ended going into September, that's when we all have to sit down and have that conversation internally, within the department and sort of spitball some ideas of what we want that to look like. We're also wanting to see the results, right, from the statistically valid survey as well, which will help us to know if there's other program areas that we're missing or that we need to expand upon. So yeah, that's a very important discussion to be able to have moving forward.
Yeah, and it's not just camp. So, so everybody understands the full body of the work. Obviously we are up against a hard deadline with teachers needing to get back in. So move out day was this Saturday. So we now have 2 additional weeks, sometimes 3, depending on when school goes back, of our TX program, which is basically our senior camp. They go on field trips every day. And during COVID, we created something called the playground program. So the younger kids, our junior camp, stay here in town. They go on 1 to 2 half-day field trips. And then they either go to 300 King Street or the playground at school, or they get picked up and dropped off at Long Lake. And we do X number of beach. Kaz and I look at the weather the week before and say, okay, these are going to be our beach days. So that's kind of like the rest of the body of the summer. The other piece that we're, omitting at this point that, I don't know whether everybody kind of knows is, our teen adventure program. 2 years ago, that program was lucky if it had 8 kids in it a week. This year, we saw between 40 and 50 kids a week. We were filling school buses and vans. So, not only are we
Summer or during school year?
that's a summer program. So, that also is something that as that grows and becomes more popular, where that trickles over to is the club has become wildly successful. So we started that. That was also the same thing. We had space in that little room downstairs for like 8 people. Last year, Brett did an amazing job. And, we were able to fill gaps that needed to be filled. Tiger's Den has been throttling back. This year, they're not even offering Tiger's Den at Shaker Lane. They're going to bus the kids from Russell Street to Shaker Lane in the morning because they're throttling back that program because of different reasons. So the overflow comes to us, and we've been able to make that happen. We've been there for the parents. We've followed our mission. One of the reasons that we do, see typically higher numbers, I believe, too, is that our other piece of our mission is that we keep things affordable for everybody. When you look at Camp T, people keep their kids here at Camp T, not only because it's quality camp, but because, for the price, you can't beat it for a whole entire week from 8:30, in the morning to 3:30. And the same thing with all of our other programs. We keep them affordable and we keep them exactly where they need to be. So the parents, can go to work and it's doing that. So those are the pieces. And then lastly, our after school programs. So our sports programs, we have programs that run from the end of school until 5 or 6 o'clock sometimes. So, we have chess clubs, we have classes, language classes, we have sports, we have all sorts of STEM, and then the programs that take place all summer. We call it LEAP, so Littleton Enrichment After School Programming. So that's during the school year, and Summer LEAP is the same thing and that takes place at Russell Street. But top secret science, all of big national programs, Camp Invention that comes in that are just awesome opportunities for the kids to do. So that's the whole thing that we're really looking at when we talk about what is our usage is, because we can get in there. And then lastly, the piece that we haven't embarked on in the Youth Sports Council is finding affordable gym space for the sports leagues in the fall and winter. Because right now, the way that the structure is, they barely get any time in any facilities. So if we can, come to bat and start working on that a little better. We've started to kind of turn the tides on that where, we've done more clinics and things like that. in order to get them in under the Park and Rec banner, so that, we're running this clinic in, cooperation with X. And that way, we've been able to block off some gym time and get people some gym time that isn't necessarily available at other, they were just to sign up for it on their own.
So just to clarify a little bit more, they are using a lot of their funding in the winter months to go to private places that have indoor field space. Whereas, ideally, they would like to use gym space in schools. And that's just something that would help them financially in the long run, be able to support those kids to be able to continue on the sports.
Who's they, the sports
The
organization?
sports organizations, yeah.
Yeah, to go spend, $100, just using round numbers, to go spend $100 in Teamworks, so you have a surface that you can have a pitching clinic on, versus you have the exact same thing in a gymnasium and just having a availability for space, and then you can offer it to free, for free or no cost. Or what organizations like soccer and basketball have done is they offer the clinics, and then all of those proceeds go directly towards like the high school team or whatever for warm-ups and things of that nature. So that's the relationship that we've built over the past 5 years that Kaz has done an outstanding job with. We started doing similar things with lacrosse the past 2 years. The fall lacrosse clinic, that was the dates I mentioned. They do that we ran that last year for the first time, and it was wildly successful.
So the schools have middle school, winter sports, volleyballs, basketball, things like that, right? Do they practice then at Russell Street and Shaker Lane? Because those are the other two gym spaces, right? So there's high school, middle school. So there's high school and middle school teams. I assume their basketball or, whatever school sponsored teams go there. Who uses the other two gym spaces? Do we know?
So Sugar Lane is it's very tiny, so it's tough.
It's like it's not really a gym, right?
The winter season is typically rec league basketball, and there's never really been any kind of,
Sharing.
yes.
Who does what do you mean rec league basketball? Is it us or somebody?
It's the
It
youth
was Mike
basketball.
Fontanelle, it's
Yeah.
been since handed over.
Yeah.
But the historical way it was done was just all the gym space was blocked out for the
Yeah.
entire,
Yes.
Season.
I remember it well.
Yes.
So,
and it's been much better.
all right, so rec league basketball takes what did I just say? Russell Street.
Russell Street.
And so there's no opportunity for us to get into Russell Street Monday through Sunday?
I don't know, I'm just saying that's one of the things that as we have the discussions, that's a piece that,
Absolutely.
all of the things that we need to keep in mind, these, as we're saying, here are our asks.
It's not as
That's
simple
one of
as.
it's not as simple as saying,
Can't
this
be.
is the time.
Yeah.
There could be plenty of time available. I don't have that information. I'm just saying
Okay.
historically, there's no time available
At Russell Street.
anywhere.
November through March was usually like not accessible period.
Okay, but now, so then who runs this rec league basketball now?
Dan Fusco.
Currently, it's Dan, I think
Yeah.
Dan Fusco,
Yeah. And Dan's been great.
Things have been, things have been
Yeah.
much, much better
Yeah.
since Font.
Yeah.
Got out of but yeah, I'm just, as we work our way down in the thinking of, hey, it's not just a camp thing, it's a teen adventures thing, it's a
Sure,
community
sure.
ed thing, it's a, hey, what do we do for, the youth organizations to get them in? What do the after school programs look like, The kiln in the high school has been a big, that whole art room, that's been something we've discussed multiple times in these meetings and, access, things like that. And I will say, one of the best things is that Eric Bentley, the new superintendent or the new
Facilities manager.
facilities manager,
He's
thank you,
amazing.
is absolutely unbelievable. And a lot of the access issues, a lot of the just hard no's really have changed with him because he's so much more communicable. The working togetherness between him and Kaz and Brett has been great. So there's a lot of that stuff that's kind of fixed itself. We just need to say, okay, well, where can we fit these pieces?
One more thing. So, and I used to have a contact over there. I don't know that I do anymore. Camp Neshoba Day sits empty all summer long. Have we thought about,
They had camp there this year.
oh, they did it this year?
They did
Okay.
it this year.
We did reach out to them
Oh,
last
right.
year and we're given a hard time.
Yeah,
So in line though, you know, those are things that we should talk about in the future,
Long
like if it ever does not open again.
okay. I didn't realize it opened this year. I know that it had sit sort of idle for a couple of years.
Yeah, last year they didn't open.
They had their,
Camp in Maine.
Yeah, they have to
Just
rent
like
it out.
Which is sleepaway camp.
Yeah.
There isn't a pool, indoor pool in any of the schools, is there?
There's not,
That's interesting.
no, there's not,
I didn't go pulling anywhere down.
there is not. You are
That's
correct.
interesting.
Maybe
That's
in somebody's
another
house, but we don't know that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say no.
You never know. Interesting.
One or two,
Somebody in town.
there's one or two possibilities.
There's somebody.
All right,
So. Statistically valid recreation needs survey.
I'm also gonna let Tim run this one. I've kind of handed over the survey stuff for him to do. We do have a meeting with Robert. We'll get that going this week. So we can start getting that moving. Unfortunately, due to my father's passing, we've kind of gone a little bit backwards on our schedule, but we will do the best we can to try to get that back up and running.
yeah, so to get this buttoned up, I mean. From my end, it's a couple days worth of work. What we could use right now is, I know all of you had sample letters that were sent to you. If you do not have them, we can resend them out. The reason I actually printed these surveys out is so that you had a hard copy that you can write on. I have already gone through these and have a pretty good idea of, from my standpoint, being in the department, what we should have. Right? You know, what are the right questions to ask, right? What I would like at this point for you to help me with is if you could, you know, spend 30 minutes to an hour and go through these and say, these are I like the phrasing of this question. I like them to be phrased this way versus this way. And you'll see it's very clearly, you know, an awesome point is, have you or any members of your household visited any of the city of, you know, X parks, facilities, or trails? Right. The other, you know, way that this is phrased is, why don't you do it? Right. So how do we want to phrase that? I personally believe that, you know, the have you used this, and if so, which ones is a better route to take. You'll notice that there are some that say, okay, if you say yes to this, please answer 1A through D or whatever applies to you. That really kind of dive into it. So without leading much further for you guys, if you guys can go through, just kind of mark these up. If you want to drop them off in my office, if you want to stop by and have a quick chat. Ideally, I have questions that I really like that are highlighted. If you can highlight your questions that you really like. I will say that when Alicia and I sat down and talked, the top one, if you look at it, is the Garden City, which should be your first one that's on there. Minus the first page. I don't think that the way that that is formatted sets up the survey really well. I think if you were to start at question number 2, I'm just giving you guys kind of an idea as you start to read through this, what to kind of look for and start to get a feel for it. If you start that on question number 2, if you started on question number 1 and some of the other ones, you really get into the right flow and the feel. So think about these questions and how you would order them based off of, if you're doing this survey and you're jotting yourself down, like, how does that make sense to you? What naturally kind of starts getting a fit? Because as you go through these questions, you'll start to say, okay, well, it really makes sense to put question 13 in front of question 2 because, you know, it gets you to start thinking. You're not saying, oh, no, I don't use anything. And then all of a sudden you have this question way down here. You're like, oh, wow, I actually do use a lot of this stuff. Right. So if you guys don't mind helping me with that, obviously being residents, having an opinion on things that you would really like to see for yourself and your families and things like that. That's what we're looking at when we really say, okay, we're going to send this out. We want to get data. We want to get information that makes sense for us. That information will help us tie it back as the department needs these things to help make all of your visions successful. They all want
This pathway.
if you guys could do it in the next week, that would be great. Like Alicia said, we're already about 2 weeks behind on where we are. I'm gonna in turn kind of put these back in order. I started working on it. I didn't get done, but I kind of have an order how I have everything together. After you kind of drop it off, I can share that. I can share it with you ahead of time so you can kind of see what our brain think is. My next part was we have a staff meeting tomorrow. I was going to try to get this out to the guys and say, hey, what do you guys think about what we need to add? So we have that piece together too. And then Alicia and I can sit down and say, okay, this is ultimately what we're going to put out.
And you have the list of facilities and things like that.
Yeah, I'll
These
type
are
that up.
Yeah,
No, these
Yeah.
are other people's, that's fine.
Yeah, these are hypothetical kind of things. Ultimately, what we'll have 4 facilities on here. If you know, you'll have 300 King Street, you'll have Long Lake Beach Park. You'll have, we can attach Indian Hill to it. Put that on there. And then Fay Park. So those are 4. And then ultimately, we can survey for the sports fields. They're not technically our facilities to
Right.
drastically change in any way, but we can use that data for having conversation with the schools and everything else in the future.
I mean, the other thing that's really cool about looking at the surveys from other towns too, is that there's facilities on there that we don't have that maybe we hadn't thought about before. So, like a splash park, I know we've talked about that from time to time. I think that would be extremely beneficial for our town. And that is something that, I definitely would want one of those, want that to be a line on one of the questions to ask if that is something that people would want. When I worked in Fitchburg, we had a few of them, and in the summertime, they were just packed, so useful, like just they're amazing facilities to have. And it's something that if there's individuals that don't want to pay to go to the beach, right, then you could access something like a splash park for free. So, then that's a way to kind of create that equal balance back into the equation again. So, if there's facilities or programs, anything that you see on these that you're, are really excited or think would be really great for our community, definitely highlight those and let us know.
Yeah, big things that we really kind of want to look at questions that are geared towards is, we have the tennis court design on here. We could put something in there that gets us a little bit of information geared towards something of that nature, tennis and pickleball. The lights on Kerper, we could ask a question, something to the effect of, do you feel that there's enough time, or are there solutions that can happen like lighting fields or whatever? You'll see them in here, and there's the way that they're worded. The nice thing about this and why they're statistically valid is the questions are not leading. So you'll get information. So you're not going to put, would it be helpful to light a field, right? So we can get information on some projects that we're working on. We can put questions in there. Would you like to see an aquatic facility like a pool put in, right? I think that from the questions, 5 years ago, the answer would have been probably no. I think now it's a pretty easy yes. I will guarantee you 100% that there is going to be a vast majority of people looking for a cricket field.
Yeah.
That there is no doubt in my mind that this is going to tell us that we have to build a cricket field
Yeah.
in the next 5 years.
Yep.
But all of that stuff needs to be taken with a grain of salt, and we need to say, okay, priority wise, what is this?
And what can we afford?
And what can
right?
we afford and how do we do it? And then that becomes the charge of, okay, here it is. This is what the people want. And now we're going to execute on how to get it.
I would point your attention to number 29 on Garden City Park, because I want to zoo.
Can we compromise with like a heading? We have some good.
I don't care,
Some
like,
good-
just,
Jamie offers, you can go back to one.
She's kind of got the goats. and-
Yeah.
My neighbor has goats, so I hear them all night.
You do the goat yoga, cuddle with them.
Trust me, I drove by the other day, I was like, oh man, I want to go goat yoga.
Do one more. August.
So one of the important ones that, you know, Kevin's point while we're on Garden City, number 14. So this is a great question that pops up in a lot of them under the Garden City one. And it just kind of makes people think about from a tax standpoint. So if you had $100 budget for the city park and recreation department, how would you allocate the funds among the categories of funding listed below? So land acquisition, improving existing outdoor complexes, improvements to indoor facilities, improvements to regional parks. That is probably one of the most profound questions that we could ask and phrase that to kind of fit our things, because ultimately that's always the question on town hall floor, right? How are we going to spend our tax money? How do people want to do it? So I think that that's really important for us to know.
The point I would add to this, though, is the amount of $100 definitely should be increased, because me being like the person I am when I think of finances, I'm gonna be like, well, what's $100 gonna get us?
So
right?
that's not the exercise.
I know
People can
that's not the
understand,
exercise.
people understand how to spend $100. They don't understand how to spend $1 million.
No, I get that, but I think it should be something in between.
Okay.
$100 is like, that's totally, I know that that's the assignment, but I'd be like, but you could get regional park amenities and actually possibly do that with $100, whereas like I could never get, you know, an acquisition of a future park with that.
Fair, we can make it like 10,000. I just,
Yeah,
that's one of those questions that I think is really, when you, as you go through it, that's like a beacon question.
That's when you'd probably talk to consultants about how they get the best results of.
Yeah.
You ask for just a lot, percentages, a dollar amount, a small dollar amount, a large dollar amount, like
Right.
see what they think. Like it's an interesting exercise. I'd be curious, what they've gotten for results with that, how well, because I mean, it's an interesting exercise if people put a significant amount of useful thought into it.
Yeah.
It could also just be a complete,
Yeah, it could be a one issue.
wild goose chase. Because people just like, I don't know, I'm 4 pages into this thing and I just need to put down 4 numbers.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
like, that's that.
Or I use the beach, so I want 100% of this going
Right.
towards existing things.
Right.
So that's what I want.
but that might be something.
That's okay. I mean,
True, no, it's
It's so neat.
And to Saul's point, good segue. There are multiple numbers of pages here. So as you read through them, just kind of in your mind, keep track of how much time it takes you to do it and at which point you're bored reading it.
Honestly,
Because that is something that we are, obviously, we want people to take time. The one thing that when Esther was still on board, we can put a thing in here that says, please take a break. Right?
Yeah.
And, have people take an automatic pause so that they're not just trying to write through it.
I mean, and all the questions are important, but maybe you stack them in a way where you kind of get the big
Most
answers,
important ones up front.
the big answers early, so people are fading towards the end. Again, they're all important, but
Right.
maybe like 14, maybe you put that in the top 5.
Yeah.
If it is important data you want, move it up in the circle. right?
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
All right, anything else on the statistically valid recreation needs survey update? CPC update.
All right, not a whole lot to follow up on. I did request a meeting with superintendent, the public school business manager, Jen Gold, our liaison from the school committee, and Kate, to see if we could sit down and talk about some of the questions that came up from CPC. We discussed some of this last time. The next meeting is unfortunately this Wednesday, so it sounds like we're not going to be able to meet before then. So that might be a conversation that we have with CPC is then, can we get another one in like 2 weeks? Because I don't want to delay so much, because I do want this to be on the warrant for fall town meeting. So that's just something to think about. So that's not a huge update, but that's kind of where we're at. So and with that meeting, the things that I would want to ask of them is to be able to discuss some of the finance questions that the CPC had, and also ask that they put this on the school committee agenda so that the school committee can approve of this project being taking place on school land. I think that's gonna be an extremely important component for CPC, that they wanna know, like, yeah, the school's gonna actually support this. You know, we've heard plenty of, yeah, we'd love it, but no one's actually taken a vote yet. So I think that would be an important component for us to be able to move forward with this.
That's why we're looking at spring. Either late
July.
July, sorry, okay.
I mean, if we get funding through CPC, theoretically, you get that money after town meeting is over. So we did that it's unfortunately gonna be end of October. So I doubt we're gonna get anything in, I mean, we talked about this before, and it's like,
The earliest you can start would be probably. If you didn't have a cold winter, April,
yeah,
because everything that you're talking about, after you demo and clear, everything is temperature dependent.
right.
Right.
So that was ultimately the question of, do we demo and clear before the winter? But the reality is, we just don't know how long we're gonna use it or need to use it, so it should just be, if we're gonna commit to this project, it should be just start to finish, like, do the demo. We are able to lay down the concrete, get blah, 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 just do it, get it finished.
And it probably doesn't make sense to have. That construction project going during the school year.
Right, so we would also have to figure that out.
Is tennis fall or spring?
Spring.
Spring,
It is
yeah, so
spring.
they're not gonna wanna get started.
Well, they can't. Two courts doesn't help them,
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah.
so they're kind of stuck for spring.
But at least the town can still play.
Right, yep, so that's something we'll have to figure out, because the reality is, we're not gonna get this done any sooner. I mean, that is the reality, so if we do have to wait for their season, the only thing that they'd be able to use are these two courts. And then the really terrible courts that are over at the Weber property, so I know that that's something that, Michael and the athletic director really does not want to use those courts, and I don't blame them. But that is probably the reality of what we'll have available to us.
So going back to the other conversation, just, I did briefly speak to Maren, and one of the things, sorry, not Maren, Kathy Miller.
Oh, Kathy.
One of the things that we could do is we could resurvey this and have it made into its own parcel.
And we talked about that the last meeting, and that was something that so the question that came up was, if the school isn't putting money into it, then the CPC would want to see them give that back to the town, because then realistically, we're gonna be the ones that are gonna maintain it anyway. So that was part of that discussion.
So just something that's another piece.
It's doable.
It's like $150 and change.
Yeah.
To make it happen, but ultimately we could make this its own parcel if that was the case, and that would satisfy some questions that the CBC had of that.
Yeah.
So is that
I'm
just
not gonna be able to
zoning?
be at the meeting on that.
You are not. I'll be there.
Correct.
So are we meeting Thursday as was proposed, or
I'm gonna say yes, we probably will.
Okay. I don't know if Jen.
Yeah, we didn't come to a solidification, because I was really trying to see if we could do it before the meeting
right.
on Wednesday. But if Thursday is gonna be the time that we can do that, then is what it is. I'd rather meet with them sooner than later. So, yeah. So in the morning, I'll send them an email and just say, yeah, let's stick to the Thursday date and get that going.
And you had some feedback from the, places or whoever did the estimate. But we haven't
Oh,
done
yeah,
anything,
yeah.
we haven't done anything beyond that in terms of,
Second. I forgot about that, in terms of the bid
yeah.
estimate?
And what about the actual Indian Hill site? I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, the last time we were speaking, there was some bad issues, but talks about funds needed to bring that building up to a certain standard or code. Is that still something that's? Well, I hate to bring it up.
No, it's important to have,
We're throwing all of this
it's-
stuff on this
it's-
property and I feel like the main building should be part of this.
it's important, and in having a conversation with the school, it's something that we should talk about, and the number's big. I'm not gonna say what it is. I'll forward you the thing. There was a reason that it wasn't brought up at town meeting. Because it really was hey, we really need to figure out what we wanna do. And the cost to move us and the school department and everything that needed to be done in order to make that facility work specifically for the school department was a big number.
That was a gold plate.
Right, 100%. Same thing, when you look at the tennis court bid, when I went through that, there's a lot of stuff in there that it's probably way higher than it needs to be. There's a lot of inflation that doesn't exist in
Yeah.
that, right? Because construction numbers are starting to come back the other way. Would it make more sense to take Indian Hill and the tennis courts and Kerper and actually put them together as a full project and send the full thing out and fund it that way? Probably.
Bonded.
That would probably be the best way to do this project. So that we just don't have a building sitting around for another year, because ultimately, if we miss this town meeting, that's the reality. But the conversation needs to be had, if the senior center gets built and the school can take over 3 floors and that's what they want to do at town hall, then that's another viable solution. And, to the point that it's a gold plated number, there was a conference room being built in the main foyer out of panels that moved, and there was a lot of things that,
200,000. We could just.
maybe it doesn't need to happen, right?
Right.
Is there another entity that it fits better? Like, there's a lot of that, but the problem is the discussion died the minute that number came out. And it's like everything else we need to start having those discussions, because the right way to do this program is to figure out what are our CPC funds that are available to us. And we have 3 major projects that we're trying to do. And with Indian Hill, in order to get it on, you could put all 3 together, bond it out, use CPC funds where, what?
Yeah, good. Finish that.
No, got it. That was it.
I don't think the Indian Hill renovation qualifies, but.
Not for
Not for
CPC,
Right.
You're
but we could use CPC funds and say this comes off the top. Here's what we need to bond out these other projects and figure out what it is.
Yep.
Ultimately, we're gonna do it for the Cooper property. There's no reason that we don't have that mindset and say, okay, well, it's just a different property. How do we make this work? How do we get the public what they need?
I will say that I have been told from both the town administration's office and the finance committee that the Indian Hill will not be on the fall meeting. So if that is a conversation that you all would like to have, you are more than welcome to.
I did include it in my most recent communication with select board member, so.
Yeah.
I will bring that up again the next time we
Okay.
have a chat.
I'm trying to see. So yes, I did get a follow-up from Bill on the question that the CPC had, so I'll make sure that I relay that information to them on Wednesday night.
Yeah, so yeah, I think we have. We'll have a meeting towards the end of September, that should be.
I don't- So I would actually
Yeah.
would ask them to meet sooner, because we're getting to the place where the warrant's gonna be open. And it opens tonight.
I believe.
But I would bet you by the end of September, it'll be closed.
Yeah, I mean, we'll look at when
Yeah.
it falls in me before that. I think would be
So,
we are also gonna be meeting for an information session on the surcharge,
okay,
I believe in early September.
so that's something I could see if I can get added on to that meeting as well. Okay, cool. All right, any other things about or tennis? the LED lights on Kerper. So we had talked last time of potentially having a public hearing tonight. But again, due to family, issues, we got delayed back a bit. So, I'm asking if we move that public hearing to the 12th, which is, our September meeting, so we could have a public hearing, allow people to come from that are butters or anyone from public actually that would like to speak on, having lighting out there. I have written a draft letter. I don't know if you guys had a chance to read it. I would definitely love feedback. You can only read your own writing so many times before you go cross-eyed, so most definitely, I would love any feedback that you have on that. But that is something I would like to get out to those individuals that are abutting the property sooner than later, to give them plenty of time to know that they can come to the September meeting and speak with us, or come to the office and speak with me, or if they need to be directed to you guys, then we can do that as well. So, any feedback on whether? Yeah.
I marked it up.
You wanna, so we don't necessarily have to go through everything. We can if you want to. But you can also email it, physically give it to me, and I can make those changes. Yeah, she's like, yeah, take it. I will take it, please and thank you. And are you guys okay with doing public hearing in
Yeah.
September?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I read through it now. It's just basic markups too, but
Okay.
I'll make that.
Anything that's like egregious or you're like, whoa.
No.
Yeah, no. Okay,
Yeah, it was
Just
just,
more words
wording.
yeah. Okay,
Yeah, it was not-
love it. Happy to hear that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. And if you can't read that, you can always ping me tomorrow.
I got you.
You can do it in red pen.
She did it. I'd be like, no, this is great. This is awesome. Great feedback. Okay. So that is what we have for right now for the Kerber. We will have a representative at the September meeting to be able to answer some of the more detailed questions from Musco Lighting, so that, if folks want to know like how many lumens is something or blah, 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 like that is not my world. So yes.
I will say that's my husband's world.
Yes.
And he said if you want to talk to him, he can help out. That's his
All right.
world.
Sweet.
Like dealing with light.
Very cool. Yeah, I'd love to get his input on that because, yeah, I know that there's other departments that have done like really in-depth research on like what percentage it illuminates the sky, and like, we don't have the funds to be able to kind of do all that kind of stuff, but, yeah.
He's offered himself.
Okay, awesome. I would take him up on that. But yes, we will have a professional here that evening to be able to answer some of those questions for people. So you don't have to feel like you have to become I don't know, master salespeople of LED lights by that time.
We'll just bring in the ringer.
Right?
We're
Okay.
inviting soccer people to.
Oh, yeah, we would
races.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. But for this, the most important is definitely the abutters, because that's their, that's their life, their everyday life. So want to make sure that they understand, they can ask their questions. Hopefully they'll be on board for it. Yeah. Okay. All right. Special events, you want to go through that?
Yeah, so special events, we have our final third Thursday of the summer coming up in 2 days. So please come out if you have not been to one. It's always nice to see everybody. We will be having Mark Burry's band play this go around. We will have some inflatables for the kids, all of our vendors that we have had throughout the summer. We will also be having a food truck. So Cedar will be back with the taco truck that we had. Big hit last time. I am still waiting to see if Mike and his team is gonna be back with the Ed's Weenie trailer, if it's finally fixed. I do not have an answer on that. But hopefully we'll be able to link up in the next day or two and figure out what's going on with that. So come on out, join us. Waiting to see exactly how much rain we get tomorrow to see if Fay Park is going to be available to us. If we get any amount of significant rain as we are supposed to, between 1 inch and 2 inches, then we will be back at 300 King Street. Personally, I thought it was a great venue last time. It was really nice having the hard courts, the playground right there. We got some good feedback on it. We definitely had a much more dynamic and diverse crowd than what we typically draw in Fay Park, which was very interesting. Saw some new faces, some new families that we've never had before. I think they just happened to be at 300 King Street and was like, hey, what's going on here? So it was pretty cool. So not the worst thing if we have to go back there. Kaz will be doing a bunch of stuff to promote the new Park and Rec program, Adult Recess. So Adult Recess will be coming to Littleton near you. It will be gym themed kind of games, all sorts of stuff that we have each and every week. That Adult Recess is going on for the duration. And with that, we will also be offering childcare. So if we have families who want to come out and drop the kids off for a couple hours, and we'll entertain the kids, so that you can go and play, Adult Recess with your spouse. So Kaz will have all the information for that. We will have some of our fall programming there, representatives from some of our after school programs. We will have Ken there, Ken Krilla, who everybody met at Long Lake Beach this year, will be taking over our after school program. Ken Krilla and his team will be there to discuss your after school options for our tweens and teens. That program has grown tremendously. We have some really, really awesome stuff coming down the pike this year. So Ken and his team will be there to discuss that. And then all of our wonderful vendors from the town of Littleton and surrounding communities that we have each and every time who make this event possible. We'll have them there. Hopefully we'll have Mr. Knox will definitely be there. Hopefully we'll be doing the famous hula hoop contest that he puts on. We really love Joe, and he was one of the founders of this event, and we love having him and his team there. They give away a Menchie's gift card every week, every month when we do it, so it's awesome. Any questions about Thursday? Looks like we're gonna have a beautiful day.
What band's playing?
Mark Curry,
Is it the Speed Bumps?
no idea.
I don't know.
They're not starting till 5:30 because that's when they can start, so. But that will be, that will
We have
be
live
our
music.
band. I am not sure yet what he's going with for a name.
All right.
I will say I was not able to go last time when I saw a car pulling out from behind the basketball courts as I was leaving something else. It
Yeah.
confused me greatly.
Right.
And I realized,
Yeah.
and then I realized what was going on. I was like the last car to leave, so.
Yeah.
Briefly very confused and a little concerned, and then remember what was going on.
Yeah.
All right, so Oktoberfest, coming up, September 30th, we're gonna do it within the actual date range of Oktoberfest. Last year, we missed it by 2 days.
Yeah.
Saturday, September 30th, we have all of our bands in place. We got Jack Reed, he's gonna play with his band, get a little bit of rock and roll. We have an absolutely incredible Oompa band that we locked down this year. So we will have a full 15-piece Bavarian band.
Wow.
It's gonna be pretty awesome. It's been since the first year that we started doing this, we've been trying to get these guys here, so it's gonna be pretty good. Next part of the ask is gonna be for the liquor licenses, so I'm gonna speak with James again, get the sub shop, figure out what they can do. Dirigible has expressed interest. He also told me he has a couple other friends who have some breweries in the area that might be of interest, so I am going to, in the next week, button up that list of people. We will be going to the next Board of Selectmen meeting to request the liquor licenses. Dirigible is going to request both the road race and ours at the same time when they file their paperwork. And then I've reached out to some other vendors that I have not heard back from yet. If I don't hear back from them, then we're just gonna roll with our normal plan. I need to speak to Andrea. I've not spoken to her about food yet. Haven't linked up with her, when the shop's been open to be able to get over there and talk. So food wise, I'm not really sure what we're doing yet. Same conversation as we had with, the, Ed Sweeney's group. So we will get that all buttoned up. All the inflatables, the corn maze, the bounce house, the inflatable pub, everything is already on order and reserved for us. So we're pretty much ready to go. Hopefully we're gonna get some good weather and it's gonna be good to go. So does anybody have any suggestions or anything, based on previous years that they really like to see, or is there anything question wise that we have? Anything like that?
Will there be pretzels?
We can make that happen.
I see it.
Send the picture.
Yes.
Soft pretzels are required.
Small present requirement, all right.
With the
Um,
beer.
Yeah, what was it? Who did I send up to, where was it? The
Oh,
fair a couple years ago to pick
yes.
up pretzels?
Yeah, Kaz went to pick up a
Yes,
giant
he
order of
did. Yeah,
pretzels.
he did. Yeah, sure. We'll have pretzels there.
And root beer for the kids.
So that is one of the people that I need to circle back with. Rapscallion has typically donated the kangaroo beer in the past for the kids beer garden.
Oh.
And then we've gotten a couple other different varieties from the market basket, so.
Sweet.
Yep. All right, so without
So-
further ado, I would like for you guys, if possible, to approve the serving of alcohol in Fay Park from 11 a.m. till 5 p.m. on Saturday, September 30th, 2023.
I will make that motion.
I will second.
We'll all second.
Everybody.
We'll all second.
Yes. And pretzels. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Don't even. All right,
Awesome, okay. So we will fly through this. So this is my, it's funny, I put fiscal year 23 and I'm actually talking about the end of the year. Fiscal year 24, at the beginning of the fiscal year, always takes some time for them to get their paperwork up to date. So what I ended up doing was going through all of our paper copies of AP packets, payroll, our purchase card statements, our MyRec revenue, and just put together my closely estimated of what I think the actual is going to be. For the revenue for 23, according to our MyRec system, we brought in $1,061,967 and could have had one more penny, 24 cents. We also received a grant last year from United Way, so that's an additional 42,500 that went directly to our club program. So overall, our expenses were 270,000 and our wages were just under 600,000. The estimation is that we have about that $241,000 in the positive, which is really great. So that helps us start that nest egg so that we have that rainy day fund, and gives us something to start the beginning of this fiscal year with, which is super important. So, we're looking really good from last year. I still do need to go through through some of the finances with Michelle, because every time I kept kind of going back, if you remember, we've changed the chart of account numbers like 3 times this past year. And every time we would go through, it was like, oh, well, there's still money left over in the enterprise. There's still money left over in the enterprise. So I have asked her to sit down with me so that we can go through and make sure that all of the money has been taken out from the enterprise. And if not, then that number may go up higher. So I will give you an update on that next month, and then hopefully we can start getting the information on our fiscal year. Once we get our Munis upgrade in place, which I think is supposed to happen at the end of this month. I think. They're starting to do training for it, so usually that's a sign that like, whoop, one day they're gonna flip the lights and, you know, the other one shuts off and the new one starts, so. Yeah, so hopefully we'll get that new system up and running and it will be, fingers crossed, much better than the previous one. Questions, comments, concerns? So open space and recreation plan update. The public survey was closed on July 30th. I haven't had a chance to get a follow-up with Jack, so I don't know what the final number was. But the last time I talked to him, I think we were closer to the 400 surveys number. So as soon as I find that out, I'll send you guys an email, let you know how many that we finally did end up having. And then the next public hearing is officially set for Thursday, September 21st. And that's gonna be 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. At the Sturts Room again, so we'll do that in person. We had a really good group of people come to the one that was back in June, so hopefully we can still, you know, get the same numbers or maybe more to be able to come to this next one, since this is the last and final. So, you know, if you want your words to be heard for this open space and recreation plan, then please plan on attending on September 21st, because that will be the last in-person opportunity. All right. Update on the brochure. So the postcards are done, they're ordered, they're gonna be delivered to the office before the 22nd. I just got an email today saying that they're already being delivered, so I'm sure they're gonna be here in like a day or two. And then we want to mail those out on Thursday, Wednesday, Thursday, the 24th, with the hopes that they'll be in homes on the 28th or the 29th. And the brochure will go live on Friday, August 25th. Anything you want to add on brochure?
So we did go back to the format of, we're doing a fall brochure, we're doing a winter brochure, and we're linking spring, summer back up. It just seems to fit better for everyone, our instructors included. So that will be our process. One of the things that we run into, especially like one of our largest programs is our ski club, that information doesn't exist right now. So it's hard to push that out and then add stuff into the PDF. So the other piece here, just to point out, and that's our QR code. You can scan that and find anything you want about Park and Rec anytime, anywhere. So hang this on your fridge. If you forget about it, you always know where to find all of our information. You can scan that code, it'll take you right to the website landing page, and then from there you can navigate to wherever you want to go to find out anything. So always a good thing to have around. It'll anchor you what you need to have. And yeah, we're ready to go. Brent's got some awesome stuff planned for some new community education classes. Kaz has some really exciting fall sports and programming coming out for the kids, half-day programs. Just, you know, we listen to everything that everybody wanted, and I think we've, you know, the team has done a great job delivering on some really cool stuff. So we have some stuff coming back. We have some stuff that we've dropped off that hasn't, you know, necessarily been successful. And we have some new stuff that we're going to try out. So, you know, check it out. And as always, give us feedback. You know, let us know what it is that you love and what it is that we're missing.
All right. We already did this, so just as long as we get this evaluation done by the end of August, that would be sweet. Okay. One of the things I had mentioned last month, but we didn't get a chance to follow up on any of that was meeting outside of the office, just to make sure that, you know, you guys are in the loop. If you have questions, if there's action items, that need to be done in between when we meet, on our monthly meetings, I would love to be able to do that. So, if you guys have an idea of a day, I mean, if you want to be like, it's all gonna be every first Monday, you know, at, I don't know, 2 p.m. If that's something that you can squeeze into your calendars, I would love that. So, not only do you get some time at the office and with our staff as well, but maybe you can see, like, if you come in the next 2 weeks, so the rest of this week and the week after, you will see the insanity of having our playground program, our TX program. So
By tomorrow, it's gonna be rainy.
they'll all be there. They'll all be there. So, yeah, and I have to give a huge shout out to the building department for being so patient and wonderful, sharing that space with us, because I know the kids can be loud and they love to hear their laughter, and they're good sports and they're great people. So thank you, building department. So I'll just throw that out there. We don't necessarily have to commit to anything tonight, but if you can send me an email or a text, just say, hey, I want to grab this date, this time, we'll get into the calendar and get it set.
Great time to sign the packets.
Comes up. All right.
We've been in there more than once a month.
You most
100%
definitely have been in there more than that, for sure. So I just wanted to throw up some awesome pictures from the summer. It's been an absolute blast. One of the really cute reoccurring things is Kate Simpson usually always dresses up like Kaz. And this year Kaz dressed up like Kate. So it was some good fun shenanigans happen at camp and Teen Adventures and sailing program. And then our wonderful loving staff giving each other a cuddle after the beach party. So, and it's been an amazing summer. These guys have done such a great job. They've just created so much joy. I mean, I wish I could just bottle that up and be able to just share that all with you to see how much happiness they have created for the kids, for the staff. So, as always, I'm just so proud of all of these guys. They are amazing. So I have to give them credit for that, being all like, so yeah, it's been a really great summer. I can't believe it's already almost over. It's insane. I know you always say at the very first day of camp, it's almost Labor Day.
Very first day, small Labor Day.
No, but it does go by that quick. I swear that. But it's been a really amazing summer. So thank you to all of our full-time staff and seasonal staff. They're just extraordinary. We're very lucky.
Definitely a wonderful summer. So yeah, huge thanks to everybody.
Yeah. All right. We have no old business. So that gets us to our last part of the wonderful photo of the day, actually. So this was our playground program. And we had the inventor mentor come, and this guy just invents all these crazy machines. So the kids got to do like a really fun interaction with them, and then get to play with all of his inventions. So a lot of them are, what do you call it? Like a, not repercussion.
It's like a vortex thing. I made this.
Yeah.
Like it shoots the
smoke
Yeah.
rings.
yeah.
So it does, you don't get it very well in all the pictures, but they can create these giant, huge smoke rings with these really cool, it's like a drum type of thing. It's air percussion, concussion. I don't know. It's awesome.
I saw a snowmaker. That's where my.
You saw a snowmaker? Yeah, the little kids with the snow blowers.
They had a Rice Krispie can and they had all
Yes.
sorts of stuff out there. It was fun.
It was a blast.
Yeah.
So these are just some of the awesome, fun, wacky things the kids get to experience. And yeah, good
Good.
times.
Kangaroo coming on Thursday.
No, not next, it's next week. We'll give you the date. Yes, there's actually going to be a kangaroo on site. Kaz paid a little extra for a premium animal.
Yeah.
The library and the COA had an animal
Yes.
show coming and they graciously allowed us to join so that the playground program could come and
Yeah.
donate up a kangaroo, so.
Yep.
I want to go.
Come see a kangaroo. Yes.
Don't get too close and get punched.
There you
No.
go. All your credits, son. All your credits.
Just don't go like this to them, and then they're gonna lean back and get across the pretty quick. I'll let you know when it is.
I want to go.
Okay.
There you go. Come on.
There you go.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all opposed? All right, we are officially adjourned at 8:45.